Oh hi! Bet you're wondering what I'm doing out here. Well, I can safely say, after 18 years, I am done with video games. Like, to be honest, they're just boring. They never look like what they're advertised to be. And there are just so many crappy games flooding the markets these days. Nope. Nothing could ever get me to like video games again. That would be impossible. Okay, maybe this might.
The third generation of game consoles is a weird time. I mean, I grew up at a certain point where all I'd hear on the internet was YouTubers saying that the NES was the greatest console ever, and that 8-bit games were some of the greatest games, blah blah blah. Well, yes, the NES is great. However, I feel like it has forever, or just for a very long time, tainted how people will look at the third generation of game consoles. I also feel like this makes people ignore the other consoles of the time. And fair enough, the NES had a chokehold on the market at the time. And the NES had some great games at the time, such as Mario, Metroid, Zelda, Kirby's Adventure, Punch-Out!, Duck Hunt, Red Racer, Mega Man, Contra, and so many series got their start here. For example, all of the above, and Final Fantasy, Castlevania, to name a few. And it just shows that this was successful because almost all of these series are still active to this day. I mean, look at this thing. It's absolutely perfect. The design is iconic, the colour scheme is cool, and the controllers are almost perfect. Like, why are they rectangular? These things are a bitch to hold at times, but the button placement is great and an icon of gaming. And I mean, this console was so great that Nintendo's been re-releasing these games since like the entire time they've been in the gaming market. I mean, I could look under my couch and I could find like 4 ways to play Mario 1. It's undeniable that Nintendo won this generation with how great their console was. But this wasn't to say that it wasn't without their own faults. For example, the game library was still a cesspit of crap. Famously, LGN was a third party that released some of the worst games in the NES library, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or Ghostbusters. I mean, it was so bad, it became the angry video games nerd biggest foe. Like, this company released so many bad games that they're still being mentioned to this day, 30 years since it was made defunct. The NES was home to some pretty cool accessories, and while accessories are still a thing in video games to this day, I would say nothing's ever gotten close to the amount of accessories that were compatible with the NES. I mean, this thing had fucking everything. From ways to adding cheats into your game to a motherfucking gun. I mean, it's called the Zapper, sure, but it is quite good fun. Even in the modern year with stuff like VR. Shooting some 8-bit ducks with a fake gun is pretty damn fun. The NES had everything. I'm shocked there wasn't like an NES robot who'd play games with you. Oh yeah! Rob is a robot who would play games with you on the NES. 2 to be precise, Gyromite and Stack Up. And while the technology behind him's a bit too complicated for me to try and to explain, I think he is really cool. If a bit useless, really. That said though, he's had a great legacy. He's appeared in games such as Mario Kart DS and Super Smash Bros. Hell, the guy even has his own amiibo. All this talk about the NES has made me forget about the other consoles, so I'll touch on the main ones for a few minutes. Sega released 2 different consoles, the SG-1000 and the Master System. The SG-1000 wasn't released in the UK, so I don't know much about it, but I don't think we're missing much. I mean, looking at the games on this thing, I'd quickly move over to the Master System. The Master System is weirdly still successful in Brazil, and that's pretty cool. I mentioned a few of the games on this console not so long ago, those being the Alex Kidd games. And to be honest, my opinion of them wasn't that good, and that kind of defines my opinion on the Master System. I mean, this thing had its own gun. I don't happen to own a Master System, but I wouldn't be opposed to owning one day. And from what I've seen though, other than, like, Alex Kidd, it's not that bad. It's not as good as the NES, mind you, but it's not the worst thing this generation. Atari was still a pretty big console manufacturer around this time, with their flagship console being the Atari 7800. Fun fact about this console is that it's one of the first to ever feature backwards compatibility, featuring the feature with almost every 2600 game. But to be honest, that's all I can really say about this console. I mean, that's an issue with an Atari. I feel like most of what they released after the 2600 is stuck behind the shadow of the 2600, which is a shame because I think Atari's pretty cool. Going through like the catalogue of games quickly, and the only ones I recognised are ports of an arcade game. It ain't a good look for Atari. I mean, there were still loads of consoles beside the main ones, but I mean, who could forget such classics as the BBC Bridge Companion? Yeah, the BBC, as in the people who make TV shows in the UK, made a video game system in the 80s. This console was designed to teach users how to play the card game Bridge. And it's a game I only know about learning about this console's existence. It was made by a maths teacher, Andrew Cambites, due to his love for Bridge. 9 games were made for this thing, and yeah, I just thought that was a pretty cool part of video game history. It just goes to show that in the 80s, just about anyone could make a video game console.
So, that was the third generation of gaming. To be honest, I barely scratched the surface. There were so many consoles that came out this time. If I spoke about all of them, we'd be here all day. Now, I only have 2 game consoles generations left to talk about. Gens 2 and 1. But, I don't know when that'll be, because I don't know what to say about the fucking Bally Astrocade. Anyway, I'll leave you with that, and hopefully no more games consoles will be thrown at me.